people don't get to understand the other point of view. I think that's what often happens. I think when people do hear it, for example, the correlations with early and promiscuous sex, I find people are often incredulous. They say, where's your data? That can't possibly be, that's ridiculous. And the reason they're saying that is this, I think they're basically thinking underneath, if that was true, I'd have already heard that.
Richard Lucas, great to talk to you again, leader, of course, of the Scottish Family Party. Now, you've got quite a resource there of the sorts of evidence and curriculum material which is currently being used in Scotland. And this is not random cherry-picked material. This is material from a list that has been explicitly recommended by the First Minister of Scotland to be used throughout the school curriculum. Richard, why don't you talk us through it? And a warning to any people watching who may have young children around, you might want to have them look away at this point.
Right, I will share screen. But this is really the heart of the matter. The guidance is pretty woolly, basically. But these resources I'm going to show you now, these are as commended by John Swinney, as commended by the Scottish Government. So the guidance I was talking about, it lists recommended resources. These are recommended resources in it. So these resources are used, I would guess, at most schools across Scotland. Mm-hmm. This is what's going on. So I'm starting in the nursery level here. So we're talking 3 and 4 year olds. This is a book recommended, What Makes a Baby. And you might think, what makes a baby? You might think, man and woman fall in love, get married, have sex, have baby. Not a bit of it. The message of this book is you need 3 things to make a baby. You need a sperm, an egg, and you need a uterus. So you can see here, when grown-ups want to make a baby, they need to get an egg from one body and a sperm from another. They also need a place where the baby can grow. So all these androgynous figures, and they deliberately take sex out of it. And it's like making a cake. If you can get a sperm, an egg, and a uterus together from whatever sources, you can make a baby.
Doesn't have to be yours. Could be anybody's, really.
Yes, yeah. And this is for 3 and 4 year olds.
Goodness me.
Transgender messaging. Learn about these sort of terms as well. Penis, scrotum, and testicles, vulva in nursery. Is that really necessary? Every family form is equally valid. Some families have 2 mums. Right, so we're out of nursery now, up to start of primary school, 5 to 9 year olds. This is this video. This is still from a video. Shows 2 boys falling in love. I think when you've got 7-year-old boy, if you say to them, "Who do you like? Do you like boys or girls?"
Yep.
Oh, girls are boring. I like playing with boys.
Yep.
And this is just planting the idea that maybe you might be gay.
Yep.
Look at this. Just pure LGBT campaigning content. This is from lesson plans for primary schools in Scotland. Okay, reinforcing the 2 mums, 2 dads idea. Look at the family in the middle. 2 mums and 2 dads. It looks like the 2 dads are a couple, and the 2 mums are a couple. Oh, that looks like co-parenting.
Yeah.
Where you've got a gay couple, a lesbian couple, and they want to have a child, so they arrange between them in some combination to produce a child, and then share the child between the households. That looks like a representation of that. Remember, in 5 to 9 year olds.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
So how to make a baby. So the top slide there, have sex, maybe too graphic a description, but with equal billing, it also talks about IVF and sperm donation. I assume in order to be LGBT inclusive. So children are being taught, if you want to make a baby, lots of ways of doing it. Just take your pick. A mum can find out the sex her baby is before it's born, or find out at birth when the midwife will say if it's a boy or a girl. So the whole idea of assigned gender, books about transgenderism, are you a boy or are you a girl, Jacob's new dress, etc. Right, upper primary school now, ages 9 to 12. I think those pictures are unnecessary. The next picture, I'll show it to you. So imagine a class of, I don't know, say 10-year-olds, boys and girls, sitting in the classroom, teacher at the front, And the next image is from a slideshow. This would be like on the whiteboard at the front of the class. There we go.
Oh, goodness me.
So the boys and girls do a little quiz labeling the different parts. And it's quite remarkable. Transgenderism pushed all the way, as you'd expect. So we're still in primary school, remember? So this is about basically teaching kids how to have sex. So there's a picture with two women, a picture with a man and a woman, a picture with two men. The description of heterosexual sexual intercourse, I would say, is quite graphic, detailed.
Yeah.
It just sounds like teaching them how to do it. But the inevitable question for the children is, okay, so that's what the man and woman do. So what do the two men do? Miss, what do the two men do? Inevitably, that's the question that's going to be arising in the children's minds. Promoting, endorsing masturbation is a big theme. We'll come to that later. Right, we're up into high school now. 12 to 15-year-olds. Oral sex, anal sex.
Goodness me.
Right, this is an activity, having sex for the first time. So in pairs, so this might be Fred and Samantha pair up to have this discussion, and they discuss having sex for the first time, and they're asked what matters most. We trust each other, we respect each other, we feel happy with each other, we have a laugh, we've talked about being safe, we have strong feelings for each other, we talk about things, we like each other for who we are, we both know what we want.
Yeah.
So implications, these are the things you need to think about before deciding to have sex.
And this is for 10-year-olds.
We're in 12 to 15-year-olds now.
Oh, 12 to 15, okay, right.
So having sex is illegal.
Still underage, right? Yep.
Yes,
yep.
Absolutely. Yeah. So anything about like being married in there? Forget that. No way. Remember, we're still talking about underage children here. So this is from a lesson plan. The right to personal autonomy. Young people have the right to decide on matters about their sexuality. Who says? Where does that come from? They just make it up. They're free to explore their sexuality in safe and pleasurable ways as long as they do not interfere with someone else's rights. In other words, people under the age of consent, you've got the right to basically have sex if you want to.
Yeah.
You've got a right to have
as long as you
illegal
both
underage
want
sex.
to, you've both got a right. That's what that's saying.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to believe, isn't it? But this is a video, which I would say the video is quite raunchy.
There's no mention of the fact that actually it's illegal under the age of 16. You can't do it.
We'll come to that in a minute.
Okay.
That's just coming up. The video, that's the still from the video. So it's the boy and the girl basically in the girl's bedroom on their own, and they're heading towards having sex. And the point is that they need to be able to communicate well with each other. Because they're sort of a bit clumsy and don't quite know how to talk about what they want or whatever. But Scottish sex education will help them to communicate well so they can get on and have illegal underage sex. I get this from a lesson plan. It's very unusual for young people, 13, 14 or 15, to be prosecuted if both young people are happy and one person is not forcing the other to have sex. In other words, the age of consent is 16, but hey, don't worry about it. Nothing's going to happen. And the children are taught that. This is not like advice for social workers or teachers.
Yeah.
This is what the children are told.
Curriculum material.
Yes. Yeah. Masturbation completely normal. That's a still from a video. And the boys in bed there masturbating. You can imagine what the video looks like. Right, on to pornography. Top 10 things to remember about pornography. It's okay to have sexual feelings and enjoy your body when you masturbate. And this is a lesson about pornography. So that's endorsement of using pornography to 12 to 15-year-olds, which is just evil. My book about this, I call it Corrupting Young Minds. And that is corrupting, delivering that message to young people. So there's some stills from a video about pornography, which are pretty vulgar. And this is a quote from the video. Sometimes when you're on the internet, you might accidentally or intentionally end up on a website that features pornography, sometimes called porn. Being curious about sex and looking at pictures or films of naked bodies or people engaging in sexual behaviours is perfectly normal.
Right. So no problems with porn in Scotland then for children.
No, that's the government endorsing pornography to children. Right, more transgenderism. That's more transgender messaging. The sort of LGBT activist message, equal marriage, as they call it. But look at this. I mean, the LGBT flag. Being part of the LGBT community has meant so much to me in the past few years. Through events like Pride, LGBT youth groups and workshops, I've met wonderful people who all celebrate and accept each other. This is a lesson plan in schools. Some Scottish schools have taken children in a minibus to Pride events. They'll make their placards in school and they will go as a school trip to the Pride events. I mean, how is this education? It's... Remember, we're still in the 12 to 15 age bracket.
Yep.
It includes this video that explains that basically lesbians have better sex. Implied message: hey girls, why do you give that a try? It seems to be better. When a woman becomes pregnant, 3 options: have the baby become a parent, adoption or fostering, or an abortion. Just take your pick. No further comment. Right, we're up to age 15 plus now. So still in schools, 15 plus. So this is from a video. Is masturbation good for you? The message of the video is basically yes. And it finishes with the lower image there. And it says, put on some music, light those candles, and have yourself a good night. And maybe it doesn't show up too well on the image, but they're tissues. So showing some tissues at the ready. Ending the masturbation video. Put on some music, light those candles, have yourself a good night. And the SNP, that they put this stuff out, they'll win the next election probably. People don't care about it. It's just not. People just don't see it as a political issue. The vast majority of people just don't care that the children of Scotland are being corrupted with this sort of filth. I mean, look at this. Okay, this is talking about different sexual activities. The hot dog with a sausage going in at either end, that's illustrating a threesome. The chicken being tied up in string, that's illustrating bondage. Then we've got the jar of Nutella with a banana being dipped into it and pulled out. These are stills from a video that's illustrating anal sex. And the message of that video is that basically, quite a few people do these things. Quite common. And it's barely believable, isn't it? I mean, anal sex. They were trying to present it with the message that, hey, lots of people do this. But oral sex, it's time for another shocker here. Talks about types of oral sex. Look at the bottom one. So oral sex involving using your mouth and tongue to stimulate, and the bottom one, a person's anus. That's the curriculum. So John Swinney, the First Minister of Scotland, says, yes, this is what we want in schools. And he just gets elected time after time. Still from a video. I'm probably the leading promoter of home education in Scotland with this sort of material.
Right. It's just, and we know the evidence around the influence of adolescent sexuality.
Yeah.
The evidence is quite clear. It's highly vulnerable to this kind of influence.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll come on to who wrote the resources in a minute. I mean, you couldn't make this up. You couldn't make it up. Right, so there's still from a video. That's the video that's basically saying that basically anal sex is more pleasurable as well. So we've had a video saying that lesbians have better sex. We now got a video saying anal sex could well be better as well. Where to do it, how to set the atmosphere. If it's your first time, you want it to be somewhere where you can take your time, have privacy, not be interrupted, etc. Right, so that's a quick look at the resources. Let's have a look at who the Scottish Government appointed to write them. Here's the man in charge, Colin Morrison. And I found his dissertation online, his Doctor of Education dissertation.
Yep.
I won't read the paragraphs, I'll just explain. But basically he's saying that something's gone wrong in society because we've erected an artificial barrier between childhood and sexuality. And this is not healthy for children at all. So what we need to do for the sake of children is to break down this artificial barrier between childhood and sexuality. And then goodness. Children will be happy. He also quotes people who are saying there shouldn't be an age of consent. I think reading what he says seems to be saying as well that he doesn't think there should be age of consent laws. He quotes without disapproval people arguing against them. And then just look at the quote at the top of the page. It would seem that keeping childhood and sexuality apart has done little to help us explore what children and young people need to ensure a healthy and happy adult sexuality because such a position fails to explore what sexuality means and why it matters in childhood. So we need to break down this artificial barrier. So I wrote to the Scottish Government and said, do you realise you've got someone who's an advocate of child sexuality in charge of sex education? And he's also sat on the Scottish Education Council. And the government replied just with some waffle. We appointed him with a committee. We went through the proper process. We like a diversity of views. And that was it. His sidekick producing the sex education resources is this gentleman here, performing with his satanic rock band. This sort of inverted cross is from the Facebook page of the band that he's in. And he's virulently anti-Christian. For example, when a Catholic school has a speaker speaking about sexual abstinence, for example, Nicky Coyer will be in the papers saying this is an outrage. Why has this been allowed? This is indoctrination. This needs to stop. So he's the other man at the heart of producing the sex education resources. Pupils with special needs, I'll just mention this very quickly. I went undercover into a Scottish Government agency-led session about sex education for pupils with severe learning difficulties and special needs. And basically, they were talking about, I'll read some of it. This is quotes. How do we establish a masturbation routine? So here sits very firmly in home and with our pilot family, thinking about this complex learner is aroused and is trying to masturbate. We have to be able to establish a routine for that young person at home where they understand the context of when it's okay and the routine of how it's okay. Right, here we go. Right, again, this was a person talking in the training. Flo Longhorn's book. Any of us who've been in special schools for a long time, go back to the lovely words of Flo, who speaks about this resource and providing support to actually get to orgasm. And there's a really interesting article, actually, about vibration and supporting complex learners using vibration to come to that point of orgasm. And this is the book that she's referring to. So special needs schools, basically talking about providing sex toys or means to pupils. We talked about LGBT inclusive education. I mean, that's a class in Dundee. Making a rainbow flag there. Yep. Right, so the government's funded some resources to be used. Amal needs to get her dad's Father's Day cards, this sort of thing. But then look at this. So these are maths worksheets produced basically by organisations funded by the Scottish Government. Pride flag, estimate the perimeter and area of the LGBT rainbow flag. Next one. The grid below is 1 centimetre squared. Estimate the perimeter and area of each letter. Lady Gaga. I'm a musician, an actor, and a human rights campaigner. I believe that everyone is unique and special and that you're perfect just the way you are. You were born this way. Can you colour me in? This is Scottish education in action. This is what we've got to offer to children. Sadly, some people don't like Bob. Bob faces oppression for being a triangle and for having stripes. So obviously the idea is that Bob is gay or transgender or whatever. So some nasty people are saying down with stripes, and some people are saying God hates triangles. You can get the message there.
Yeah.
Can't you?
Yeah.
Right, this is a school in Edinburgh when they had Wear a Skirt Day, when they encouraged all the boys to go to school in a skirt. So the male staff wore skirts, and a lot of the boys wore skirts for the day as well. I'll do this very quickly. That's a drag queen invited to a school in Dunbar. Absolutely perverted content online. So I contacted the school and said, look, this is what this performer's like. They shouldn't be at your school. So they did actually cancel the performance. But I went along to the event in any case to see what else was going on. And they called the police and had the police escort me from the building.
Oh, dear.
Just for going to watch. This drag queen was invited to a primary school in Scotland by an SNP MP. Again, absolutely appalling content online. This was on the wall in a high school in Renfrew. I mean, that's the symbol for a relationship between two men and one woman. Again, I wrote to them and said, basically, why is this on your wall? Is this? Are you meaning this? Is this a mistake? No reply. This is from a school in Jedburgh. Video of two men speaking Polari, the gay dialect back in the 50s, 60s, 70s. Absolutely, I won't even begin to describe what they were talking about. This is a sex education practitioner who was commissioned to deliver sex education sessions in councils around Edinburgh, including in Edinburgh. And on his head, that is what you think it is.
No.
And coming out of the top of it, that is what you think it is as well. And he was delivering his show around Scotland. This performer, it's a woman who's, I don't know, non-binary or whatever. And she was doing a show for primary school children, funded by the Scottish government, about sexuality, gender, etc. And on the left there is her promotional image, dinosaur on the top, and then there's the book underneath that says harmful to minors. So I looked that book up, and the subtitle is The Perils of Protecting Children from Sex. The Perils of Protecting Children from Sex. So she's funded by the Scottish government. I was hounded by Scottish government agencies when I was teaching because of my values. But if you think children should not be protected from sex, then you get government funding.
Crazy.
We talked about withdrawing children. School sex survey. This was done in Scotland. I think it's an ongoing thing where they ask children in schools about various things, including their sex life. So look at this. This is for 15-year-olds upwards. Look at the questions there. People have varying degrees of sexual experience. How much, if any, sexual experience have you had? Vaginal or anal sex? I mean, just the fact that you've been asked that is a normalising.
How old are these children?
Factor. It's 15 and upwards.
Right.
We're asked that.
Yeah. Goodness.
Have you had vaginal or anal sex, penetrative sex, more than once? Yes, no, prefer not to say. It's interesting. There was a lot of controversy about the sex surveys, even though it's, I think, a much lesser issue than the sex education. But for some reason, it was a big issue. And the transgender guidance is what you'd expect. So if a young person says, I'm actually a girl, basically the schools ought to say, okay, that's really brave of you. Well done. Thanks for sharing that with me. Would you like us to tell mum and dad, or would you like us to keep it secret? What would you like us to call you? And just to go along with it completely. Changing gender, name and pronouns. Failing to involve or even inform parents. And I've heard many stories of that. If teachers object, the guidance explains that basically you give those teachers short shrift and tell them they need to get with the program. Chest binding is endorsed, and that's quick summary of what's going on in Scotland. So the new guidance produced, I mean, it is bad. There's a lot of things in it that shouldn't be there. But the real issue is the content of the lessons that the government's pushing forward.
Yeah, and that's always the argument, isn't it? That when unless you have an outright ban, well, essentially you're allowing anything and everything, and because there'll always be exceptions to the rule, and those exceptions are then widened, and essentially there is no rule, and anything goes. So, I mean, critics will say, "Oh, Richard, you've tried very hard to cherry pick one or two things out of thousands of resources and millions of hours of teaching, and actually it's not representative." How would you respond to that?
I would say I've got a great response to that, because the Scottish government's done us a favour. Because before about 5 or 6 years ago, we would hear stories, anecdotes, and there'd be some pretty terrible things going on in sex education, but it's hard to get the big picture. But then the Scottish government did us a favour by saying these are the resources that we recommend to every school. So John Swinney himself, there's, at the beginning of those resources, he's quoted saying this is what we commend to every school. And they're used, I say, in the vast majority of schools. You can't actually get the data, but I think they're used in the vast majority of schools. So they are the government's policy. So everything I've just shown you there, from the lesson plans, that's from the government's recommended official resources, as recommended by John Swinney, the First Minister.
Yeah.
Right. So there's no.
So you're not cherry picking.
Cherry picking.
This is mainstream resources as recommended by the First Minister.
Yes.
So, I mean, where do we go from here, Richard? I mean, clearly anybody with a brain is going to know that this just over-sexualizes children from a young age. It removes any chance of happy marriages, because if you had sex with lots of people before you're married, the likelihood of divorce, we know, goes through the roof. And also men like party girls, but they don't want to marry one. You know, and we know that again from the evidence, and shocking though that may be, those are the facts of life, right? Which is, again, another reason why marriages, we're not having them, they don't work out. You can get sex with who you want, when you want. Why would you bother with marriage? Where do we go from here? Any thoughts?
I think it's a values issue. It's a culture issue. So I think the Scottish government's values, I would say they're more progressive than the general population. But the general population doesn't prioritize it. I find a lot of people, roughly, if you show this to grandparents, they're horrified. They say, this is utterly appalling. If you show it to parents, sort of generation, sort of age group, it's about, oh yeah, I'm not so keen on that. Yeah, that's not really ideal, is it? But the idea of like going and saying something to school, rocking the boat a little bit, or withdrawing them, well, you know, let us just smooth things over. It's all okay. So I think, there's a sort of gradual shift in society that even people who are not totally on board are a bit more accepting. And then I think generally Christians, church, I would say other faiths as well, tend not to put their views forward in the public domain. The things you just said about the long-term consequences of early and promiscuous sex, everybody needs to know those. Any sort of sex education, this has got to be top of the agenda. People need to know how these things are likely to affect the rest of their lives. I think most people don't even know those things. So there's a gap there. That the sort of point of view that we would hold, that's largely absent from public debate, unfortunately, and is certainly absent within the Scottish Parliament. And sort of the way forward, I think there's no magic bullet. We're a democracy, and basically we're not going to have education in a form that's way out of sync with wider public opinion. That's not going to happen. It's going to be somewhere similar. So we've got to work on public opinion, but through every means possible, through the media, through campaigning, and through the political system.
You raised really, really important points there. I mean, the whole kind of discussion, the whole the born this way premise, well, the evidence really doesn't point that way. The strong influence of environment on adolescent sexuality, very strong evidence for, but also the poor life outcomes of people with certain predilections, which are influenced, however, again, all of that needs to be documented, because there's a substantial body of evidence. And all of that points to the fact that actually, far from celebrating and promoting this among children, we should really be doing the exact opposite. It's not for their best. It's not for their best outcome. It's really anti-safeguarding. And that doesn't mean in a liberal democracy people can't live the lives they want. But actually, let's be very, very careful with the children.
Yeah, I think an analogy would be, it's like having a class and saying, hey, kids, there's such a thing as smoking. Here's cigarettes. So it's up to you. You might be a smoker, you might not be. It's entirely up to you. Give it a try if you want to. But we're just here to explain it and give you the options. That's just really irresponsible.
But not only that, but actually, look, here's some really good ways to smoke, ways different people smoke. This is what you can do with the breath. You can hold it in for longer and all sorts of things like that if you really want to absorb the nicotine. But it's like, well, no, that's crazy. No, you're absolutely right. So I suppose that there is that thing of, then there's the hope always is that, well, actually, if you look at the stats, married people, although there's fewer married people, they tend to have more kids. And the people that are following these sorts of patterns and processes don't tend to have any kids. So theoretically, over a period of time, it'll sort itself out. And our job is to do our best to try and limit the damage in the meantime. But then the other point you make with the churches, our supporters come from all faiths and none. Most of them, quite frankly, are Christians. And the churches are supposed to be salt, which stops the rate of decay. And I'm really, really convicted that actually we just haven't done that. Otherwise, we wouldn't be where we are.
Yeah, I think that the temptation is to always be on the defensive. So you're under pressure. People are trying to say you're bigoted, you're horrible, whatever. If you think about, say, the conversion therapy ban, people say, oh, you shouldn't be a prisoner. And then maybe people get into the mindset of, well, let's see how far we can go to ameliorate this attack. Let's see if we can neutralize it a little bit and convince them that they were actually quite nice people. But the thing is you're not actually putting forward your view. So people don't get to understand the other point of view. I think that's what often happens. I think when people do hear it, for example, the correlations with early and promiscuous sex, I find people are often incredulous. They say, oh, where's your data? That can't possibly be. That's ridiculous. And the reason they're saying that is this. I think they're basically thinking underneath, if that was true, I'd have already heard that.
Yeah. You're so right. Exactly. Somebody that'd be all over the media if that was true. Without realizing, oh yeah, but what you're not taking into account is ... Yeah. So I think it's a piece of work which is needed to be done, or a collection of pieces of work which is definitely needed to be done, not just in Scotland, but I think throughout the UK, and then publicised. Again, it's much of it is toxic in terms of, oh, we don't want to get involved with that. You'll get cancelled because it's going to the root of what's so many people's premise and personal identity. Which again is crazy. You're defined by more than who you want to have sex with. That doesn't define you. It's part of your personality, and we know the evidence says that can change radically over lifetimes. Okay. Well, listen, I think you're doing fantastic work.
Likewise.
I think your party's growing. I mean, we're not a political organisation. We'll speak to anybody from any party that wants to talk about the benefits of marriage and the things that undermine it. Hence, we're talking to you. But it does seem, and you've got some plans, I think, after the next Scottish elections, to not be the Scottish party, but maybe be the family party per se, as opposed to the Scottish one.
We're going to be exploring possibilities, following up a few leads. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So that would give grounds for a wider UK-based family party, as it were, which again is rooted and grounded in common sense theories around family and what works best for kids and adults and society, while recognising we live in a liberal democracy.
Yeah, the key thing for us as the family party is we put these issues front and centre, that they're the heart of what we're doing. So we might be a bit more broad on some other issues to try and broaden our appeal, but these issues about family life, stable family life, the well-being of children, they're absolutely core to our philosophy.
Which is so important because it's fundamental. And people will argue and bicker about, well, I'm going to vote for this, that, or the other because of their tax or benefits policy or foreign policy or something, and then won't give any of this any consideration whatsoever. and you think, well, you're straining at nuts and swallowing camels, as they say, and missing the wood for the trees and all sorts of other crazy analogies. But
there's so many issues that politicians try to address unsuccessfully because they're really difficult to solve. But family stability, I know I'm preaching to the converted here, but family stability has such wide-ranging benefits. And the policies to encourage it, they don't cost a fortune. A lot of the normal understanding in politics is, okay, we've got a problem. What are you doing about it? Okay, we've spent £63 million on it. But the values issues that are really fundamental, it doesn't cost a huge amount of money. And the benefits would be so far-reaching. I'm not talking about benefits. I'm talking about benefits for people's personal lives, the way people's lives unfold, and they flourish or don't flourish through their lives. And that's absolutely what's at stake, which is entirely within the government's remit. So the government is very keen to promote values, suggest activities about how you might think about living your life, encourage various things. That's just routine government activity. But it's taboo to approach the absolute heart of the matter, which is family structure and family stability.
And I think deep down, many people know that. And as information becomes more freely available, information sources are more readily available to people like you and me, I think we can help them get to know that. And I really think, the best is yet to come.
I think there's encouraging signs. I think there are figures who maybe had previously not been interested in such issues. Now they are getting interested. And I think, I'm optimistic on this front. I mean, in Scotland, we're in a terrible state with the sex education. It's utterly appalling. But I think overall in the United Kingdom, I think there is an uprising of understanding of the importance of family life to the nation for various reasons. I think the tide's with us, I think.
It's very exciting. Richard Lucas, Strength to Strength. Look forward to speaking to you again soon. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Tony.